I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, a changing of the guards just days after a series of corruption allegations from former Representative Zaldi Co's surface. Ralph Recto is the new executive secretary as Frederick Go replaces him as the new finance secretary. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman's resignation has also been accepted by the president. For analysis into the latest plot twists, Bob Herrera Lim, Managing Director of CEO advisory firm Teneo, joins us live. The Iglesia Ni Cristo concludes its protests a day short of its schedule, and on the last night, Senator Amy Marcos accused her brother, President Bongbong Marcos, of using illegal drugs. And in our People Profit Planet segment, the journey of a single mom of two into a plastic-free lifestyle. The EcoShip founder Irene Villaespin joins us later on in the show. President Marcos accepts the resignation of Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman. Bersamin and Pangandaman stepped down after resigned lawmakers Zaldi Co linked their offices in the flood control mess through a series of videos posted over the weekend.
Both officials respectfully offered and tendered their resignations out of delicadeza and in recognition of the responsibility to allow the administration to address the matter appropriately.
Finance Secretary Ralph Recto will replace Bersamin as Executive Secretary. Recto was in the Senate to attend plenary debates for the 2026 budget, and he was caught off guard when asked about his sudden appointment.
A surprise, yeah, but work has to continue. Essentially, I think the role of the ES is just governance. So taong maaari ka doon. How do you make improve government services, get the departments to move faster? Wala naman talaga legal president. Walang, you cannot do miracles. But having said that, our job is to improve governance. Essentially, it's what it is. Ang taong maaari tayo dyan.
Replacing Recto as the finance chief is Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Frederick Go. Go said he will promote fiscal strength and sustainable economic growth for the country. As for Pangandaman, she said her resignation is the most honorable path to allow the nation to move forward. The first Muslim budget chief hoped that the reform she instituted would continue to grow. Undersecretary Rolando Toledo will serve as DBM officer in charge. The palace also announced that Presidential Legislative Liaison Office Chief Adrian Bersamin has also resigned. Adrian is the son of the nephew of the elder Bersamin. Following the president's latest revamp of his economic team, analysts and policy experts are weighing in on what the shuffle could mean for policy direction and investor sentiment. Former Congressman Joey Salceda, now chair of the Institute for Risk and Strategic Studies, says newly appointed Executive Secretary Ralph Recto is seen as someone the president can trust to deal with key political actors. He adds that now Finance Secretary Frederick Go enjoys the confidence of the driving forces of the economy and knows the problems of the economy from a very practical standpoint. RCBC Chief Economist Mike Ricafort, meanwhile, says Recto signaled a push for good governance reforms. He also noted if anti-corruption measures and higher governance standards are taken seriously, just like years ago, then these should be good for the markets and the economy. Analyst Jasper Matthew Bailon of First Resources Management and Securities says the index could hold between 5,700 and 6,000 in the coming days, as the latest revamp could bring uncertainty on potential new policies. And PhilStock's Financial's Japheth Antiangco says the revamp also raises questions among investors, including whether it was necessary, if it is linked to ongoing corruption issues, and what impact the new team will have on the direction of the economy. The Iglesia Ni Cristo ended their anti-corruption rally at the Quirino Grandstand Monday night, a day ahead of its supposed conclusion today. INC spokesperson Edwil Zabala confirmed this, saying they've already achieved their mission to call for truth, justice, accountability, and peace, thus not needing the third day. But in a surprise appearance, last night, Senator Amy Marcos accused her brother, President Bongbong Marcos, and First Lady Araneta Marcos of using illegal drugs.
Bata pa naman kami ni Bongbong. Alam na ng buong pamilya ang problema sa kanya. Batid ko na nagda-drug siya.
Meanwhile, Palace Press Officer Under Secretary Claire Castro dismissed the allegations as acts of desperation. She noted that Marcos already underwent drug testing before his campaign in the 2022 elections, which yielded a negative result. She also questioned Senator Amy's motives, saying the remarks seemed intended to discredit both the president and the First Lady. 6 major business groups have affirmed their confidence in the Philippine economy amid recent political challenges. In a joint statement signed by the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, Institute of Corporate Directors, Makati Business Club, Management Association of the Philippines, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Philippine Finance Association, the group said that the business community continues to support the economy, which still exhibits strength despite the flood control mess rocking investors. They cited a well-regulated financial system, a stable banking sector, and continued investments for their confidence. With us now for more is Bob Herrera Lim, the Managing Director of CEO advisory firm Teneo. Good seeing you again, Bob. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Cathy.
So what do you think was a bigger plot twist here? Is it the cabinet-level resignations or Senator Amy's speech at the INC rally?
I think you've seen a surprise a day, right, for the past several days, starting with Zaldico's revelation. So from our point of view, it's part of the political churn that's happening. Obviously, Marcos's opponents think he's in a vulnerable position, and then Amy coming out with all these allegations obviously raises the sort of ante in terms of the anti-Marcos forces. So it's now the challenge for the administration, sort of how to navigate all these challenges, how to convince people that that they are not telling the truth or they are politically motivated. So there are a lot of things on the president's plate, and obviously the replacement of 2 cabinet ministers with Secretaries Go and Secretary Ralph Recto is meant to stabilize some of the situation, but that's only part of the bigger wheel. The bigger wheel for many Filipinos that still remains unanswered is the question of what happened with this corruption scandal, who is responsible, and who will be punished.
So are you saying that it didn't move the needle, the cabinet revamp that just happened? Because we just had one about 6 months ago. And that was the president asking everybody to tender their resignations.
No, I don't think it moved it that much. Obviously, it takes away, there were always questions, right? What did the budget secretary know? What was the participation of other officials in the executive, ranging from the line agencies to people within Malacanang? And obviously, there's an attempt to move them to the side so that they don't become the focus of political discussion, but it still does not answer the long-term question, the bigger question of what really happened. So it's sort of a temporary diffusing of the situation, but it doesn't answer the primary question. So I really don't think it moves the long-term needle of people wanting answers, needing answers, and then deciding whether or not to support the president still or not. The Iglesia ni Cristo rally also showed their political clout, but they did convince a lot of people that, now is the time to give up on the president, now is the time to give up on the Marcoses. As the statement you read showed, there's still significant segments of society that say, no, now is not the time to give up on this government or, throw it out. So
Could
I
it
think
have
we are still
raised
in
the
that
temperature
situation.
then? I mean, to market watchers, the revamp raises questions on the part of investors. Are the changes necessary? Do the changes have something to do with the current corruption issues? And in the new lineup, how will the direction of the economy be?
So yes, they do have something to do with the corruption scandal, right? The budget secretary was mentioned. I think the nephew of Executive Secretary Bersamin was also mentioned. So it has something to do with the budget controversy. And the thing is, therefore, the change happened because of that. The question is it enough to convince people that changes are happening? I don't think it will convince people. Secretary Go is well-intentioned. I've known him for some time. I think he wants to do a good job. Secretary Recto is somebody who has his pulse on politics and at the same time understands what happens to the economy. So in that sense, they'll better be able probably to coordinate. That will be the expectation. And they will try to keep the financial system stable to insulate the economy. But all of these will not have the desired effect if people's confidence in the bigger issue, the bigger question, what happened with the flood control funds, what was the participation of senior members of Congress, what was the participation of senior members of the executive, if these are not answered, these will be temporary measures. They will not answer the bigger question.
And the big answer is in the street protests that we're seeing, the revamp unfolding, just as the protest from Manila to EDSA wrapped up. It wrapped up a day earlier than planned, but we still have the second installment of the trillion peso march on November 30th. So how do you think that would pan out, given what we've seen so far with the revamp?
So we're like in the middle stages of a chess game, Kathy. So people are saying we're frustrated, we're angry. You have the Iglesia Ni Cristo bringing people to voice this sentiment. Now, some people suspect the Iglesia always has motives. I don't want to take away from the Iglesia anything. They also care about the country. Their followers want to see better governance. I am sure of that. Now, there's also another group coming out in the next couple in a couple of weeks, and they also want good governance for the country. So these are opening games. The question is, how does the administration respond? How does the ICI respond? If 1 to 2 months from now, maybe let's say sometime in February next year, the perception is only small fry are prosecuted. If the ICI is not coming forward with good conclusions, as people would like to define it, right? Really finding out who is responsible, then people might say this process is leading nowhere, right? And their frustration then with the Marcos government grows. So the next 2 months, it is not this month that is important. It is the next 2 months that will be important because people generally are giving the ICI still a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And they are saying we want to see first how the Marcos administration fully addresses it. If the Marcos administration does not address it, then yes, we have to reassess by February probably or March.
Won't we know before Christmas? Because Marcos said heads will roll before the Christmas rush. And on the other hand, former Congressman Zaldico saying there will be more evidence against those he named, including Marcos. Could the outcomes of either tip the country into political instability?
Yes, definitely, right? So the question is, because it was Ombudsman Remulla, former Secretary of Justice Remulla, said he will file cases by the 15th of December. I think they recognize that something must be done before the end of the year, before the Christmas season comes in. Now, obviously, the people who do not like the Marcoses, like former Congressman, or still Congressman Zaldico, will try to come out with something that will also upset that timetable. So again, we're still in the middle game where there will be move and counter move by both sides. And then people, just like us, people in media, people in the academe, the business community, will have their own discussions. Is the process credible? Is CO more credible than the government? Is the government doing something that is right and proper and they believe is moving forwards towards real resolution? These are the things that are not yet settled. So yes, it can still tip into instability. I think, Cathy, as a final point, we think the military is still also watching this. And as an institution, they would not like to get involved. The risk always is that, similar to what happened in Oakwood in 2003 and 2006, I think, right after the the election controversy, there are segments of the military that might believe that the process is not working, and that's what we're watching out for. The problem is that is extremely opaque, that is extremely difficult to assess, but it's not out. You can never say it's a 0%er in the Philippines, and I think that's the immediate risk that we're watching.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Bob. I much appreciate it, given the changing plot twists there. Bob Herrera-Lim of Tineo. And cash remittances have risen 3.7% year-on-year in September, its fastest pace in 5 months. Data from the Bangko Sentral showed money sent home by overseas Filipino workers rose to over $3.1 billion in September, from $3 billion in the same month last year. This marked the fastest growth since the 4% logged in April. Analysts said OFWs sent home more money starting September as the holiday season approaches, plus the strong labor market and a competitive peso. The BSP expects cash remittances to grow by 3% to $35.5 billion this year. And you're watching Money Talks. Coming up, Prime Infra completes its acquisition of First Gen Corp's gas assets in Batangas City. And how is EcoShift shaping a plastic-free future? We get answers from its founder, Irene Villa-Espin, and People, Profit, Planet. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. A massive sell-off in bank and tech stocks dragged U.S. equities yesterday, Monday. The Dow slid by 1.1%, S&P 500 tumbled nearly 1%, and the Nasdaq fell by 0.8%. Investors shunned riskier assets ahead of NVIDIA's earnings report due Wednesday and delayed economic reports, both key events shaping the global financial outlook for the rest of the year. Benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.132%. Gold prices fell to $4,068 per ounce. U.S. futures point to a mixed bag with the markets open later tonight, Manila time. The Dow up by less than 0.1%. Both the S&P and the Nasdaq are down by 0.1% each. As for Asian markets, they're tracking Wall Street's losses this Tuesday. South Korea's Kospi and Japan's Nikkei 225 both down 1.7% each, and Australia's ASX 200 falls by 1.3%. Let's take a quick check on our own market, see how the PSCI opens this Tuesday. It looks higher by 0.5% at the get-go, 5809.51. The bargain hunters are coming to the market's rescue, taking advantage of last Friday and Monday's steep decline to buy stocks at a bargain. As a result, the Boers advanced by 3.5%, with the broader all-shares index rising by 0.6%. Regina Capital says there's still no prevailing catalyst to drive long-term market momentum. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today a tad weaker to 59 flat to the dollar. The peso closed a tad stronger at 58.931 against the greenback on Monday. The 10-year government bond yields ticked up 5.9%. In corporate news, Prime Infrastructure Capital has completed its acquisition of First Gen Corp's gas assets in Batangas City for 50 billion pesos. The Razon-led company has completed the financial close for a 60% stake in the 1,000-megawatt Santa Rita power plant and 4 other energy assets of the power provider. With this, Prime Infra now also holds a 60% stake in the offshore liquefied natural gas terminals, while First Gen and Japan's Tokyo Gas each retain a 20% share. For their part, First Gen also sees this as a way to introduce more renewable energy capacity into the country's power supply. SM Prime Holdings has raised 17 billion pesos from the issuance of fixed-rate retail bonds. The offering consists of 12 billion pesos in fixed-rate bonds with an oversubscription option of up to 5 billion. The issuance represents the third tranche of SM Prime's 100 billion peso shelf registration of fixed-rate bonds, which was approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission last year. The property developer giant earlier said proceeds from the issuance would be used to finance 16 major redevelopment projects and 12 new lifestyle malls scheduled through 2030. ACX Holdings, Ayala Corp's retail arm, has expanded its partnership with Thailand CP Extra. The two companies signed a memorandum of understanding on November 13 to strengthen collaboration across retail, wholesale, e-commerce, and mall development. And this is to develop new businesses and explore co-investment opportunities in Thailand and the Philippines. ACX said this is to offer Filipinos more choices by bringing the best of the world to the Philippines. Ayala Corp first announced the return of Dutch brand Macro in September through the ACX CP Extra partnership. As the planet's biggest climate conference, COP30, wraps up later this week in the Brazilian city of Belém, anti-plastics advocates are still further out from securing a global plastics treaty. Even so, advocates such as the EcoShift are pressing ahead with its mission to influence people to shift to plastic-free products. For nearly 7 years, the EcoShift's use of non-plastic personal care essentials have aimed to reverse what it calls the damage done to the planet. Well, with us now for more is the EcoShift founder and CEO, Irene Villa-Espin. Good seeing you here, Irene. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Miss Cathy. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. So you're hitting 7 years by December 5th. So how has it gone then for that journey of between 2018 when you started and now? How many people have you convinced to go plastics free?
Okay, so the number of people we've managed to convince to shift to a plastic-free lifestyle, because we have a 1 million mission. Unfortunately, we haven't reached that number yet, but we've sold more than 1 million shampoo bars already since we launched. And we have managed to convince more than 200,000 customers already. We are only tracking based on our website because primarily our business is 90% done online.
So that's 200,000 customers of repeat business.
Yes.
They're the ones supporting you now. What do you know of them, given that 7-year journey of how they came on board and how you've been able to retain them and maybe even attract more from their own communities?
Yes, so it's very interesting. You know, when I started, it only started because I wanted to shift to a plastic-free lifestyle. So I had a very difficult time looking for products that would suit me. And then I thought, it's just not me. I'm sure there are other people out there who thinks like me, who wanted to do the shift. I was really surprised because it was done organically when I started in 2018. But during the pandemic, like 2020, you know, people are more prone to buying online, so they discovered more of our products and they liked it. And it's a niche market at first because, you know, people who think like me who wanted to switch to sustainable products. And then it started to grow because, of course, the product is good, and then the advocacy and the number of bottles that you have prevented from ending in landfills. And I'm very happy to share that since we started, we have managed to prevent 14 million plastic bottles from ending in landfills already, because we also measure our success not just by profit, but we also measure it by the impact. So we count the number of bottles we have prevented and then extrapolated these numbers.
How does that work out? 14 million bottles, how do you track that? Is it because, as I understand, part of the sustainability thrust is really in the packaging.
Yes, that is true. So we wanted to have zero waste, but it's kind of really hard to come up with a product that's zero waste because it's nearly impossible to do that in our current state, right? So what we do is 1 shampoo bar is equivalent to 2.5 plastic bottles. So that's how we compute it, because it's like 80 wash per shampoo bar. So we just extrapolated these numbers based on the number of products that we have sold so far. So that's how we've managed to compute the 14.5 million plastic bottles from ending in landfills. So every time you buy a shampoo bar from us, that's already 2.5 plastic bottles from ending in landfills. So one person consumes like 12 plastic bottles a year just for shampoo alone. Imagine if you use conditioner, body wash, and all the other things that you do to look good and feel good.
Right, and a big part of your business is the innovation you bring,
Yes.
and you are the first to bring in a certain technology that actually decomposes as it's
Yes.
thrown.
Yes.
How does that look like, and exactly what is it the life cycle, as you call it?
Yeah, so when I started, it was really hard to come up with a product that's totally zero waste, especially in skincare. So I have to wait for the innovation to actually come. So this is called Vivomer, the innovation. It's 100% compostable. So what does it mean? Like even if you leave it alone, you don't do anything, you don't put it in recycling, you just put it in your composting, it will just decompose and then it will just join the soil and then go back to the earth. So that's the kind of packaging that we really wanted to have because, you know, people when they buy, they don't really think about sustainability. They only think about what it's going to, how it will affect me, or this is like, you know, when they go through the grocery stores, they only look at what's in it for me. They don't, like, packaging is the last of their, if they're in their
But
minds.
I'm sure they look at price, and
The
that
price, right.
comes as a premium. It would cost to import the technology. I'm
Yes.
wondering how sensitive those price points are and how you're convincing them to give a little up so that they become more sustainable.
Okay, so when I started with the skincare, we do the glass containers, no? So I did not change the pricing even if I got the new technology because that's where the advocacy comes in, like people, planet, and profit. So I have to make sure that we still have a little bit of profit in place, but then without increasing the price points because I want my customers to actually be able to buy the products that I offer because it doesn't make sense if I produce products and then they cannot buy it because that does not make it sustainable. So I want the customers to be able to buy these products and in such a way, it's just price neutral with what we currently have. Because I wanted the customers to know that, hey, there are options available. You don't have to choose this product. Like, you know, if you really want nice hair and all these things, we have a product here that also give you nice hair, give you nice skin, all the good stuff that you want, but then it comes plastic free. And then it's price neutral. So hopefully, when people are watching this interview, they would also be encouraged to start looking for options that would suit them best.
And be more mindful of their choices. And being an entrepreneur, it's like a balancing act between
Yes.
sustainability and profitability. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Irene.
much,
I much
Cathy.
appreciate the
Thank you,
conversation. Irene Villaispin of the EcoShift. Before we go, the MRT is offering free rides for the whole day after a disruption in its operations this morning. The rail line limited its operations from Shaw Boulevard to Taft Avenue and vice versa at the height of the rush hour. The MRT management says there was a technical issue between the interstation of Santolan and Ortigas southbound. The management has apologized to the commuting public for the inconvenience. MRT resumed full operations at 8:05 a.m. this morning, Manila time. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.